there are still corners of the planet where time simply does not move forward. Places with no roads, no electricity, no signs that anything like our world exists. Territories that never appear in travel guides and remain outside the system. Regions where the jungles are so dense that even satellites cannot penetrate their shadow. And there, among trees that have witnessed thousands of generations, survive peoples who have chosen to remain hidden. Tribes that have lived in isolation for millennia, who know nothing of our governments, our laws, or our haste. And when a stranger crosses their borders, they respond with drawn bows, unblinking stares, or with a silence so deep it feels like a warning. What would happen if you entered one of these territories and no one ever heard from you again? And what if the real danger wasn't in their spears, but in what they reflect about our own civilization? Before we continue, make sure to subscribe to CronoPlanet and turn on notifications. That way you join a community that travels beyond the known world, exploring the most remote, isolated, and mysterious places on the planet. And stay until the end, because today you'll meet one of the most striking and unsettling tribes of this region. A people who have remained hidden in the jungle for generations, who have never accepted contact, and who respond to intrusion with the same resolve as the nature that surrounds them. Now then, let's begin. Jarawa. They're the hidden watchers of the Andaman jungle. In the heart of the Indian Ocean, among turquoise waters and forests that seem impenetrable, lies a territory that does not appear in brochures or on any approved tourist routes. From the air, the Andaman Islands look like a perfect paradise. White beaches, vibrant jungle, absolute silence. But that calm is deceptive, because in the deepest trails, where light barely pierces the foliage, lives a people who have rejected contact with the outside world for thousands of years. A people who watch, listen, and decide. They are the Jarawa, one of the oldest and most enigmatic tribes of the Indian Ocean in Southeast Asia. It is estimated that their ancestors arrived in the Andaman Islands more than 20,000 to 25,000 years ago, forming part of the groups known as the Negritos, populations that preserve extremely ancient genetic lineages. While elsewhere in the world cities, kingdoms and roads were rising, the Jarawa continued to live by their own rules, depending on nothing but the jungle around them. And today, nothing has changed. They do not use writing. They do not accept tourists. They do not allow intruders. And they defend their territory with a precision that can only come from generations of surviving in a wild ecosystem. That rejection is neither symbolic nor recent. It is an open declaration. Do not cross our boundary. For decades, the Jarawa have avoided any type of outside contact. When someone gets too close, their response is usually clear and forceful. Many reports from India's Forest Department, Survival International, and researchers from the Anthropological Survey of India document episodes in which the Jarawa have emerged from the forest, armed with bows, traditional machetes, and sharpened arrows. Their hostility is not gratuitous. During the 19th century, British colonizers attempted to subjugate them, forcing their sedentarization and occupying parts of their ancestral lands. The consequences were devastating. Attacks, reprisals, and deaths on both sides. Since then, the tribe has learned that distance is survival. Even today, the ATR road, which cuts through their territory, is a constant point of tension. Although stopping is prohibited, many illegal tourists once entered the route trying to photograph them. On multiple occasions, the Jarawa responded by firing arrows, blocking the road or appearing unexpectedly in the middle of the highway. forcing vehicles to retreat. Their language, unrelated to any known tongue, remains a mystery. Their beliefs, too. Their worldview, inaccessible. And that very inaccessibility is what protects their way of life. In several emergency medical interventions, always controlled and extremely exceptional, the Jarawa have demonstrated something unsettling. Their immune system is extremely vulnerable to outside viruses. A common flu could cause devastation within the tribe. This is why contact is dangerous, not only for the visitor, but for them as well. Indian authorities, aware of this, declared any unauthorized interaction illegal. Offering food, taking photos, speaking to them, or even deliberately approaching them is prohibited. And it is not about protecting an anthropological relic. It is about protecting real human lives, extremely fragile in the face of our diseases. Imagine, for a moment, that you are there. The humid heat surrounds you. The jungle vibrates with thousands of sounds. Among the trees, a shadow. A face painted with black resin, a drawn bow. They watch. They do not speak. They do not step back. And you understand that, to them, you are not an explorer. You are a threat, a reminder of a world they do not want and do not need. In an era where everything is filmed, posted, and consumed, the Jarawa are a silent voice reminding us of something uncomfortable. There are cultures that do not want to be observed, that do not wish to be understood, and that do not need our approval to exist. Perhaps the true mystery lies in our inability to accept their boundaries. Don't leave yet. What you are about to discover is just as unsettling. Because while some tribes reject all contact, others live trapped between two realities. Their own, and the one trying to reach them. And when those two worlds collide, what emerges is impossible to ignore. Deep within the Andaman Islands, among swamps, mangroves, and primary jungle, lives a people even more hermetic, more silent, and more vulnerable than the Jarawa. Tribe Onge, descendants of silence and heirs to a hidden world. Imagine walking into a jungle where the humidity falls like a veil, and every step sinks into an ancient, almost sacred ground. The sun tries to filter through the leaves, but only manages to pull out a few scattered glints. There are kilometers of mangroves, swamps, and primary forest. And suddenly, before you can even grasp it, the silence changes. It is not an empty silence. It is a watched silence. Welcome to the territory of the Onge, one of the oldest and most enigmatic peoples of the Indian Ocean. A group so isolated that, for centuries, it was believed their world was inaccessible to any outsider. For them, the jungle is not a landscape. It is their skin, it is their memory, and it is also their shield. The Onge have lived here for millennia, forming part of the so-called Negrito peoples of the Andamans, a lineage with prehistoric roots. Until just over a century ago, no one outside the archipelago really knew who they were. Their lives passed between silent hunting, honey gathering, mobile camps, and rituals inherited from generations that never saw a map. When the British arrived on these islands in the 19th century, they believed they had found an empty territory. But it was only a matter of venturing a little deeper to discover something unsettling. Shadows among the trees, whistling arrows, and signs warning anyone who did not belong there. The Onge did not attack for conquest. They attacked for defense. Their hostility was a language and a boundary. The arrival of the outside world marked the tribe deeply. New diseases, land invasions, and forced displacements drastically reduced their population during the 20th century. They went from being hundreds to barely a few dozen. a silent collapse recorded by anthropologists who managed only to observe them from a distance. And that explains much about their present. The Onge accept contact only partially, in a way that is extremely controlled and mediated by the Indian government. But beyond those minimal interactions, any unauthorized intrusion is considered a threat. They do not build tree houses like the Korowai. They do not display visible rituals for strangers. Their world is hidden on purpose. The jungle that surrounds them is their natural wall, and their silence, a warning. Many accounts collected by the Anthropological Survey of India describe brief, tense encounters. Figures appearing in the undergrowth, drawn bows, suspicious stares. Then they vanish. No words, no signs, only silence remains. A silence that weighs on you. What most unsettles anthropologists is not what the Onge make visible, but what they hide. Their language has barely been documented. Their myths, even less. Their paths change, their camps move, their tracks disappear in a matter of hours, as if their culture had learned how to make itself invisible. And in that invisibility, there is an uncomfortable lesson. Because the Onge are not an unknown tribe for lack of data, but because they themselves have decided that their world should not be seen. As you travel across their territory, even if only on the map, you begin to understand. Not all cultures are meant to be observed. Not all are meant to share their wisdom. Some exist only in their own dimension, and entering it means breaking a fragile balance that has endured for thousands of years. The story of the Onge is not exotic. It is intimate, it is vulnerable, and at the same time, profoundly forceful. They force us to ask ourselves, what right do we have to record a culture that fights to remain invisible? Where does curiosity end and invasion begin? Get ready, because we are moving toward an even more inhospitable region. Our next stop takes us to a valley that remained hidden from the rest of the world until the 20th century, where tradition merges with war and where the boundary between life and territory is still a delicate line. Tribe Dani, warriors of mountains, fire, and land. Then picture yourself moving through mountains wrapped in mist. The air is cold, dense, almost heavy, and every step you take sinks your feet into damp, living ground. In the distance, the valley opens up like a natural amphitheater. Green terraces carved by hand, narrow paths, smoke rising from circular huts, and a silence broken only by ceremonial shouts echoing against the rocky walls. You're entering the territory of the Dani in the legendary Baliem Valley in Indonesian Papua. A valley so isolated that the outside world did not know it existed until 1938, when an American aerial expedition accidentally flew over the region and found what no one expected. Thousands of people living in a place the West believed to be completely uninhabited. The Dani have survived for centuries in this remote environment, thanks to a complex social organization based on sweet potato cultivation, pig husbandry, and the strict protection of their land. Here, every gesture, every object, and every ritual carries a deep meaning. One of the most striking symbols of this culture is an extreme gesture of mourning. Women, known as Iku men, would amputate part of their fingers when a close family member died. It was a physical expression of grief, real and documented, showing how much a loss meant to the community. Today, the practice is almost eradicated, but it remains one of the most well-known aspects of their tradition. Among men, the key symbol is the koteka, the gourd sheath they wear as part of their ritual and masculine identity. And although it may seem simple to outside eyes, for the Dani, it is a declaration of belonging, lineage, and pride. But what has truly shaped the valley's history are the conflicts between clans, ritual battles that could last weeks or even months. Spears, longbows, and fire-hardened arrows were used in these fights. War was not an impulsive act. It was a balance of power, a way to resolve territorial disputes and maintain internal cohesion. Over time, some clans have partially come into contact with the outside world. Today, there are controlled tourist performances where the Dani recreate their dances and mock battles for visitors. But do not confuse that staged circle with real life, because beyond that tourist ring, in the deeper villages of the valley, the traditional structure remains intact. Elders decide. The youth train with bows. Fires are never allowed to die out, and the land is watched with absolute determination. You are there, between the humidity and the echo of ritual chants. You see a young man draw his bow, staring toward the edge of the village. Another sharpens an arrowhead on a black stone. The tension is palpable, but it is not pointless aggression. It is vigilance. It is culture. It is survival. And then the uncomfortable questions emerge. Does cultural observation always respect what it records? To what extent does a tradition remain authentic once the camera arrives? We have reached the halfway point of this journey, and I want to congratulate you, because you are getting closer to discovering one of the most powerful and unsettling cultures in the South Pacific. If you haven't yet, subscribe to CronoPlanet and turn on notifications, because what comes next is even more intense, and you won't want to miss it. Our next stop will take you to mountains where tradition intertwines with war paint, ceremonial wigs, and tensions that have shaped entire generations. But first, prepare yourself mentally, because what you are about to see may change the way you understand how a people defends its identity, its land, and its past. On to Tribe 4. Huli. Warriors of the highlands and guardians of ancestral blood, picture yourself entering the highlands of Papua New Guinea. Walking among mountains wrapped in mist, where the clouds descend so low they seem to touch the earth. The air is cold, dense, and every sound echoes through the valleys as if nature itself were speaking. Suddenly, a circular village appears in front of you, built from wood, mud, and woven grass. A place with no roads, no stable electricity, but full of life and tradition. You are in Huli territory, a people renowned for their ceremonial wigs, war paints, and their ability to turn every gesture, every color, and every ritual into a fragment of their history. The Huli have inhabited these mountains for centuries. Their connection to the land is absolute. For them, blood, land, and identity form a sacred triangle that cannot be broken. They are organized into patrilineal clans, compete for resources, and fiercely protect every fragment of valley. Here, war is not an accident. It is a language. For generations, the Huli have fought in tribal conflicts known as payback fights. Ritual and territorial battles in which longbows, fire-hardened wooden arrows, spears, and in recent times firearms brought in via the black market are used. They do not fight for conquest, they fight for honor, balance, and reparation. But behind the warfare lies an aesthetic that fascinates the outside world. Huli men craft the famous wigmen wigs made from their own hair. For months, they live in ritual isolation to let their hair grow under strict rules. No contact with women, no consumption of certain foods, sleeping in specific positions. When the hair reaches the right length, they cut it and shape it into a rigid, elaborate structure, decorated with bird of paradise feathers, shells, and yellow and red pigments. That wig is not an accessory. It is a symbol of maturity, discipline, and spiritual connection with their ancestors. Yet beneath this striking aesthetic lie deep tensions. Clan conflicts remain active in some regions, marked by inherited vendettas, disputes over fertile land, and struggles for scarce resources. These tensions have caused displacement, injuries, and deaths for decades, according to local organizations and government reports. And when violence erupts, the Huli do not rely solely on bows and spears. Some groups have gained access to modern weapons, which makes these conflicts today even more dangerous and difficult to control. Place yourself there for a moment. You see an elderly woman grinding roots in a wooden bowl as she watches the mist covering the mountain. A few meters away, a man painted with yellow clay adjusts his ritual wig as he prepares his bow. The tension in the air is palpable. It is not just a confrontation. It is a way of preserving balance between clans and defending a shared history. You are inside it. You feel it. The mountains breathe with you, but they also warn you. Because this story is not a spectacle. It is not a tourist set. It is the reality of a people living between the pride of their identity and the dangers of a land where every decision can change the course of an entire community. The Huli show us that not everything ancestral is peaceful, and not everything modern is progress. That some wars are not born from hatred, but from duty, and that the conflict surrounding them today was not created by them, but by a world that altered their ancestral balance. If this story has made you reflect, tell us below what you think. Your voice matters, because these realities, as harsh and beautiful as they are, deserve to be heard. The Huli have shown us a world where identity is defended with paint, with traditions, and with a strength that crosses generations. But the journey continues, and what comes next will lead you to a completely different territory. An island where courage is not proven in combat, but in the fall. Get ready, because we are entering one of the most astonishing and dangerous traditions in the South Pacific. Ni Vanuatu of Malekula leaps into the abyss and clans that guard the island. Imagine an island where every path seems to lead you to a different time. A land where the mountains are covered in dense vegetation, the winds carry ancient stories, and every sound has a purpose. You are on Malekula, one of the largest islands in Vanuatu, and home to some of the most enigmatic peoples of the South Pacific. Here live the Ni Vanuatu of Malekula, a mosaic of clans, languages, and traditions that maintain cultural practices so unique that many visitors find them impossible to understand at first sight. The first thing that surprises you is not their appearance, but their diversity. On this island, there are more than 30 different languages, one of the densest linguistic concentrations on the planet. Each valley, each coastline, and each clan has preserved a distinct identity, shaped by centuries of isolation. But the most striking tradition, and perhaps the best known, takes place at the top of a wooden tower, a structure raised with vines, logs, and expert hands. This is the Naghol ritual, also called the land dive. It is not entertainment. It is not a modern show. It is an ancestral male rite, a spiritual pact with fertility and tradition. Men, young initiates or adults seeking to reaffirm their courage, tie freshly cut vines around their ankles and leap from platforms that can reach 20 or even 30 meters in height. The vines stop the fall at the very last moment. If they fail, the consequences can be fatal. But for them, this is not recklessness. It is identity. Anthropological studies from the 20th century indicate that this ritual is linked to yam fertility, clan cohesion, and personal strength. Naghol is, at the same time, an act of faith and of connection with the land. Beyond this rite, Malekula has historically been a complex territory. During the colonial period, European records described clashes between clans, disputes over land, ritual revenge, and episodes of real violence. It was not chaos. It was an ancient social system in which belonging defined life itself. Although these struggles have diminished today, their memory remains alive in stories, songs, and ceremonial objects that each family keeps as a legacy. Place yourself in that scene for a moment. You see a group of men building the Naghol Tower, driving stakes into the ground while the elders supervise every detail. In a nearby circle, women chant songs that mark the rhythm of the ritual. Further ahead, a young man ties the vines with steady hands and looks into the void. There are no nets, no modern ropes, only trust in a tradition that has survived for centuries. And in that moment, you understand something deeply human. In some places, courage is not measured in combat, but in the fall, in the risk taken, in the total surrender to a rite that binds the community to its past and its land. This inevitably leads us to a reflection. Are we truly capable of understanding the depth of another culture's tradition without reducing it to a spectacle? To what extent does the external gaze transform what it observes? We are approaching the end of this journey. But now we arrive at the tribe that has shocked the world the most. A people who never ask to be known, who do not want cameras, theories, or curious eyes. They want only what they once had: silence. And when that silence is broken, the response is not a gesture or a warning. It is defense. Now then, get ready. We are entering a place where isolation becomes a border, and survival becomes an act of cultural resistance. Tribe 6. Asmat, Carvers of the Spirit and Shadows of Southwestern Papua the Asmat. A name that has stirred fascination, fear, theories, and silences that no one has fully managed to resolve. Picture yourself moving through the swamps of southwestern Papua. The ground is a mixture of water, mud, and roots. Mosquitoes buzz like an invisible army. The air is thick, salty, and every step demands strength. There are no roads. There are no paths. Only rivers winding through endless mangroves. In this inhospitable landscape, where even light seems to struggle to enter, live the Asmat. A people known for their art, their resilience, and their particular way of confronting the outside world. The Asmat carve the famous Bisjay poles, ceremonial columns several meters high that represent spirits, ancestors, and cycles of life and death. Their carvings are so intricate that anthropologists and museums across the world regard them as one of the most powerful artistic expressions in Oceania. But their history is also marked by real violence, not legendary, but documented throughout the 19th and 20th centuries. When Dutch colonizers tried to enter their territory, many of them never returned. Official records from the time describe attacks on colonial outposts, ambushes, and clashes between outside forces and Asmat clans. For the Asmat, this was not senseless aggression. It was the defense of their land, their clan, and the memory of their ancestors. In 1961, one of the most enigmatic episodes associated with this region took place. The disappearance of Michael Rockefeller, son of Governor Nelson Rockefeller. His boat capsized near the Asmat coast. Michael tried to swim to shore and was never found. To this day, there is no official confirmation of his fate, but his disappearance has been forever tied to the name Asmat, loading it with mystery and controversy. However, the story is not a romantic myth. It is brutal. In the early 20th century, the Asmat endured military incursions, forced religious missions, and pacification projects led by the colonial government. Many clans resisted fiercely, others scattered. The link between isolation and violence did not originate with them, but with those who tried to control them. Today, many Asmat clans live in partial contact with the outside world, especially in coastal areas. But inland, in remote villages, accessible only by canoe after hours of travel, there are still communities where the presence of outsiders generates immediate tension. It is not blind hostility. It is caution, survival. Imagine for a moment that you are traveling along one of their rivers. The water is dark, silent. On the banks, motionless figures watch you from among the mangroves. Their bodies are painted with white and red clay. They carry long spears. They do not speak. They do not advance. They only watch. And you understand that you are in a territory where time has built its own rules, and where entering without permission may be interpreted as a threat. The Asmat do not seek conflict, but history taught them that when the outside world enters without respect, the only possible response is to defend themselves. This journey forces you to ask yourself many questions. Who has the right to record a culture that does not want to be explained? What is truly dangerous? Their way of life, or our inability to understand it? If you've made it this far, thank you. You've traveled with us through mountains, lost islands, extreme rituals, and territories where crossing a single boundary can cost a life. But this hasn't just been a documentary. It has been an encounter with everything that still resists being revealed. If you want us to keep exploring even more remote, hidden, and mysterious cultures, let us know in the comments with the phrase, "Second part." That way, we'll know you're ready to keep traveling with us into places where almost no one dares to look. What other forgotten cultures, ancestral secrets, or invisible peoples would you like us to investigate? Your curiosity sets the course. Don't forget to subscribe to CronoPlanet and turn on notifications, because there are still stories no one has told, and this is only the beginning. See you in the next documentary.